So this might even be the third time I've circled back to this combination of the five elements, the emotions, and the six healing sounds, along with some sort of Qigong, and then expanding those ideas and practices outward beyond ourselves. Last, I guess, several months ago, I started getting this sort of intellectual itch because being a senior instructor of Universal Healing Tao, Meredith, there's Monty. It's obvious that when we are trying to heal ourselves, and that can mean healing from an actual injury or illness, it can mean finding stronger boundaries and balance, or it can just be simply growing and cultivating yourself beyond where you happen to be right now. Your focus must be inward. A perfect example is my mother's friend across the street who had 6 kids in the early 60s. She did not have time for herself. And her actual general health started to fail simply because she neglected herself so much with other people's needs, which of course were important. Had no time to turn inward, had no time to, or kind of bandwidth, as we say now, to really be aware of what she needed and what could have supported her. So that's the first point, really. And often when people come to meditation or healing practices or anything of this realm, sometimes they feel guilty because they're being selfish. Sometimes other people make them feel like they're spending too much attention on themselves. But I'm here to tell you it's essential. These practices aren't pills that take care of symptoms. We have to cultivate an inner wisdom or a self-wisdom in order to apply them most effectively. But at some point, and it's probably a point before you are absolutely forever healed, because that never comes, or absolutely cultivated to perfection, we have to make room for other things besides our self, our suffering, our growth. Especially these days when the external, the natural world, it's pretty much an accepted view that the natural world is in crisis. I don't know that Qigong helps or hurts that, but I think it does give us more clarity, more inner and external space, and perhaps being more healed, then we have more, don't really want to use the word responsibility, but maybe that's what it is. And it is so easy to align the old culture views, images, you might even say categories of Earth's natural life with the 5 elements. So it's really kind of hard not to bring them together. So that's what we're going to do, bring them together. I'm going to keep applying the change I made last or 2 series ago, where I will be emailing you the materials a couple of days before class. But then, because of the contemplative nature of connecting with the elemental life of the planet, I want to encourage you to view that as homework also. You know, we will talk about it, we will have meditations, and even in some cases, simple rituals. But then there will be suggestions from me, and I want you to use your creativity on how to bring this into your life for the next, you know, for the following week. So for those that I haven't seen metaphorically before, I want to and remind everybody that, let me put this up here actually. We can clarify Tao and Qigong practice. And this applies really to almost all body, mind, spirit practices, that you can break it down into 5 parts. One is some sort of opening or transition between, you know, flopped on the couch or washing the dishes and beginning your practice. The next step is some sort of yang or active element, and that action can be unseen. We do that a lot in Tao practice, in that we are choreographing our attention, moving energy, conjuring colors, and connecting with parts of our body, our emotions. But then after that, there has to be, to really have a rich and powerful practice, there must be some sort of yin to your yang. And I always or often feel like I'm shortchanging the yin in our time together because it is so limited. So you will receive video of every class. I really encourage you to pause after our practice and just sit, you know, pause the video and add sitting quietly, empty, present. The traditional ideal is the same amount of time sitting quiet and present as you do in the active yang. So our practices often take 20 to 50 minutes. So, you know, it's substantial. And then the 4th is closing your practice. You know, remember, returning people remember that generally I just bring down heaven. It does not have to be elaborate or, you know, super empowered or evoking. It's just you making that transition. And the last one can be the hardest of all, and that's bringing your practice to the rest of your life. The common image is the expert or skillful meditator who walks out his or her door and starts yelling at the kids across the street. You know, if it doesn't shape how you are in the world, the practice may not be for you. No criticism of the practice or you. These things often are like marriage. Excuse me. And then with our Tao practice, our Qigong, always look for the breath, the body, and the mind. Sometimes the breath is natural, but it's still there. Sometimes the body is held very still. Other times it's moving in very large and quick movements. And the mind may be quiet and centered or conjuring all kinds of imagery. Ultimately, it's that coordination, the choreography of the 3, excuse me, that multiplies. Each multiplies the other 2 and really creates our practice. Is this one? Okay. That's basically what I was saying before. And then here is the list of versions. And we are going to focus tonight, after we do our Qigong set that I've put together for this series, we're going to focus on wood. The season of wood is spring. And even though we are not yet to the equinox, in the Chinese calendar, Lunar New Year is the beginning of spring. So we're already kind of a month into it. I'm going to mute myself so I can clear my throat. One moment. So let's stand up and do some practice. But I found the little set of challenging iron shirt Qigong that we did last series, in addition to a full sequencer set, so helpful that I'm going to continue having these sort of plucking, strengthening Qigong from several places. And then this time we are going to return to the Five Yin Organ Qigong. And I really want us to go a little deeper with it, or get more depth in our feeling and our connection to it. Perhaps slowing it down is one way to do that. So I can't do Qigong without opening the spine. So let's begin there. Standing well, your feet are parallel. Unlock your knees. Gently engage your abdomen. Tuck your chin. Feel the weight of your arms and your hands to fully relax your shoulders. And let your body imprint that posture. And then visualize a low, stumpy wall right in front of your shins. And in slow motion, dive over your wall, keeping your spine rounded. And hang over. Just enjoy hanging over. Hang over long enough that your spine begins to trust you and relax a little more. Reconnect with your monkey's tail, long and thin and hitting the floor, perhaps 3 feet behind you. And then draw it closer and closer to the back of your heels. That's what shifts your pelvis. Don't worry about telling your pelvis to do anything. And then begin stacking your vertebrae one on the next, on the next. Open your wrists outward, your elbows outward, your shoulders outward, and connect your heart to heaven. Big inhale. Slow exhale. One more time, inhale. Slow exhale. Come to upright by turning your wrists in, then your elbows, then your shoulders. So to align more with spring, we're going to shift our strengthening, our more yang qigong. And we're going to do, we're going to ground with ocean and fire. Then we're going to take in qi quite a lot, quite yang li, qi using the golden ball. And then lastly, we're going to do one from Iron Shirt called the Golden Urn, which is very much about opening outward, which is the movement of spring. So you can stand well or stand naturally. So the difference to me is feet might be a little wider, and if they're wider, your toes are under your knees. Your knees are still unlocked. Close your eyes and go inside your inner landscape. We're going to do a full ocean and fire Qigong. And later in the series, I'll share with you a shorter version. So there's a little flexibility there. So the longer version, first we root. We take our time rooting. With your inner eyes, reach outward and connect with the chi field that you live your whole life within, and see it as a soft golden mist. Inhale that mist, fill your whole body. And just exhale a couple of times to really connect with that visualization. And add to it. We're still inhaling that golden mist, filling our body. But now we're exhaling that mist, whatever we don't need, it's ready to go into the earth. Exhale it out the bottom of your feet. And each exhale of that chi, that mist, grows your roots. They grow wider, they reach deeper, they get thicker and stronger. Several breaths, really feel yourself growing roots into the earth, feeling more connected, more stable. Good. Just take a natural breath, enjoying your roots, your posture, your inner landscape. Now we're going to use them. Send your mind down to your feet, down to the edges of your roots, and then outward in all directions to connect with the oceans of the planet. Inhale, draw that ocean yin chi up to you, filling your roots, filling your feet, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your belly, solar plexus, only as high as your heart. Exhale, allow it to return. Don't grasp, trust that what you need will stay. Inhale, filling with that salty ocean life-giving water. Exhale, reminding that this is not foreign. The earth is 65, 70% water, and so are we. Good. Rest, enjoying the nourishing quality, the cooling quality of this ocean, water, yin, chi. Now send your mind back down to your feet, back down to the outer edges of your roots. Now go straight down to the center of the planet and connect with the fire, yang, chi there. The magma, lava, burning rock. Inhale, drawing that yang fire chi up, filling your roots, your feet, your legs, your belly, your solar plexus, only as high as your heart. Everything above your heart is resting and observing. Inhale. Exhale, sending it back. Trusting that if you need anything, it will stay. Inhale, rising yang chi. Exhale back. Also not artificial or foreign. At the center of every single one of our cells is a minuscule spark of that same fire yang qi. Inhale up. It may feel like you have to use more intention to get it back. That is as it should be. Fire and warmth like to rise. Just send it back. Good. Rest for a moment. Stay with your nourished by water body, your vitalized by fire body. The last chapter is fire and water together. So that's the most tumultuous, often the hardest to navigate or balance, but we have grounded with our roots. We have nourished with water and we have vitalized with fire. So it's really not a problem. Send your mind back down to your feet, down to the outer edges of your roots. And now both outward to the oceans and downward to the fire. Inhale, drawing both of those elemental energies, filling your roots, your legs, your feet, your belly, only as high as your heart, however this looks and feels to you today. Inhale. Exhale. Allow it to go back to the earth. Several breaths. Good, and rest. Even though our imagery and mind is on pulling energy to us, this is also a purging Qigong because we're not hanging on to it. We're allowing it to return. And as it returns, and I don't tell you this because I don't want you to focus on it, it takes with it whatever we don't need, stagnant qi, fetid water element. And so as we are nourished and vitalized and balanced, we're purged. Purging is the first step usually in Qigong. We have to get rid of that old stuff to make room for the new stuff, which we're going to do now. So Golden Ball is quite old. And it's basically bringing your breath, your mind, and your body to experience how qi manifests or moves. Okay, stop it. Let me let him out because that's going to keep going. Out. Sorry about that. Now you know why he has big scratches on his head. So, Golden Ball. Generally, the visualizations in Qigong make more sense to us and work better, work more powerfully if we situate ourselves first. We situated ourselves by feeling the qi around us and by growing roots in ocean and fire. For Golden Ball, we're going to visualize standing in a shallow stream. The stream is golden. Golden color is the main visualization for qi. So we're not really standing in water, we're standing in this abundant, flowing source of life force energy. And just follow along, and I will also be talking. As you keep repeating, I'd like you to try and move from just mimicking to the feeling also. So the first movement is this: qi rises, qi expands, it contracts, It flows in, it flows out. It sinks or descends, and it disperses. And we add, she gathers, it rises, expands, contracts, flows in, flows out, descends, and disperses. Gather. Really start to feel it now. Rise. Expand. Contract. It flows in and out. Descends and disperses. Gather. Rise. Expand. Contract. Flows in. Out. Descends. Disperses. So a little slower. Gather. Rise. Expand. Contract. Flows in. Out. Descend. Disperse. Gather. Rise. Expand. Contract. Flows in. Flows out. Descends and disperses. Rest. So the last of these springtime preparation Qigongs is the golden urn from Iron Shirt. And we're just going to taste that a little bit, mostly the internals, because the structure, it requires a little refinement over time. So we want a wider stance because we want to be grounded and here. And this is basically the movement into the posture, up to shoulder level, and then the hands come out. So the fingers are pointed outward. We stay here. The internal is me inhaling that misty golden chi into my whole body, and then I exhale it out my fingertips. And I am sending my messengers to the earth, to the universe, with a wish, a prayer, a request. Just several breaths today, sending my messengers, my golden mist messengers. And I stay here until it feels done, feels right, within reason, of course. Then I close all fingers and I shift my hands to be palm up. The first chapter or moment was making a request. This is waiting for the response. And I must be strong enough in case that response is a boulder coming at me. This is where the structural refinement comes in. I also must be quiet enough present enough and aware enough in case the response is a feather, a pebble. And we would also stay here until it felt complete. And some days you practice this and you think, I did not get any response. That's okay. We go into the last aspect, the last chapter, where we reach out and straighten all of our limbs, bring down to our belly. And this is a practice of contentment. Maybe you got an amazing wisdom or some other pleasing response. Maybe you got a disappointing response. Maybe you got none. Whatever it was, be content. Good. And just stepping and brushing. So focusing on the wood element, the Yin 5 organs is, as its name implies, has a movement, a breath, and an exhale of grayness for each of the elements, making, I don't know if everyone who sees the video will have a familiarity with the inner 5 elements. So know that each, well, the set of 5 has a set of 5 yin organs in our body. Each one of those yin organs has a yang organ partner. So focusing on the liver's partner is the gallbladder. Each of those 5 organs, it works both ways. They can be harmed by low vibrating emotions, and they can also harbor them. So in the case of the liver, it's anger. They also, when we do our practice and cultivate our energy, that low vibrating, troubling emotional energy can rise up into a wisdom, high vibrating energy. In the case of the liver, it's kindness. And that is really the path of the 6 healing sounds, to sit with the troubling ones, to use the practice to invite any of that energy that's ready to be transformed into the wisdom energy. The 5 yin organs, the 6th sound is the triple warmer, and it's a whole body kind of element to the practice. The 5 yin organs just deals with those 5. And we have a repetitive movement, and we borrow the colors from the 6 healing sounds. So we're just going to do the liver because of time limitations, but yeah, we're just going to do the liver. And then in the series, the first 2 classes, we will lay down the nuts and bolts of all the practices. And then the last 5 classes, each class we will focus on one of the elements and organs. And we will start with the liver, so we will return to the liver. So for the liver practice, element of the practice, we want to sink. We want to be here. We want our hips and our legs to be stable. And we start with our wrist bones kind of parked at our hip bones. And every inhale, we're going to inhale into our liver area. So the liver's big. Fill that whole area with a beautiful spring green. And as we exhale, visualize exhaling grayness. That helps and invites your body to release whatever the liver doesn't need, any stagnation or stickiness it could have been accumulating. So inhale that green, exhale, the sound is shh, shh. pull that green in. Exhale that gray. And you see I'm turning, twisting. That physical twisting is very good for your liver. One more time. There's a variation of this, which is a little more demanding breath-wise, but I think it is actually the traditional way to do it, which is splitting your breath into 3 parts and moving 3 times. So let's go ahead and try that. We're inhale first. So one more. Good. Let's just bring down heaven. Tell your liver, or actually tell your lungs, kidneys, heart, and spleen that they're going to get attention very soon. And go ahead and sit down.
You're very slow and methodical and gentle, and it I think at one point you said sometimes it's okay to be more vigorous. Is that true? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Generally speaking, this is such a young and vigorous culture. Most of the time we have to spend time forcing ourselves to be gentler and yin. The yang comes easy, but we do still need to build strength and resilience. Which
that's a good point. I hear you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Balance. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions or comments? I just like to say over and over again how the elements pervade everything in our existence, in our consciousness, in our life. We have those 5 core emotions and 5 core wisdoms, and they form dichotomies which are not obvious. Mostly you wouldn't think anger to be mellowed by kindness. You can kind of see it, but it's not an obvious choice. Some others are even less obvious. Sadness, the wisdom is courage. Fear, the wisdom is gentleness. And the spleen's worry or obsessiveness is openness and wholeness. In the case of the heart, it kind of aligns with Western thinking in that there are several emotions that the heart either generates or harbors. Can be impatience. That's usually the most accessible in our practice. There's also arrogance and cruelty. And the wisdom counterpoint to those is love. And in Universal Tao, it's love and joy. So I should say in other lineages, joy is actually considered a low or troubling emotion, probably because of its temporary and intense nature.
Miranda, could I ask you to say a little more about that?
About the heart, or
joy as a secondary or temporary?
Yeah, so Mantak Chia has always said the wisdom of the heart is love and joy, and he says them together without fail. I'm not sure which sources disagree with him, but there are, I think, how to put this, any kind of excitation is considered undesirable. So anger would be a kind of excitation, as would fear, as would obsession. What am I missing? Well, sadness is a heaviness to it, but it's an intensity. So the joy's intensity and excitation would be why they would say no. And Mantak Chia has spent many hours thinking how best to organize these traditional ideas and practices for the Western mind. And I think that was one of his decisions for our benefit, maybe. I don't really, I'm not sure how useful it is to pursue joy. I don't know how you would do it. To me, it's always a surprise. And to pursue it in your practice, no, maybe I'm with the excitation people. I think love is a much more powerful, sustainable, deep wisdom. So the other thing is that these wisdoms put together are true compassion in the Taoist view. And if you think about love and gentleness and kindness and wholeness and openness, I'm missing courage. This is compassion, not empathy or sympathy. So the elements also govern space. North, south, east, and west are 4 of the 5. Earth, being the center, is the 5th. Time, the day is divided up into elemental periods. The morning, springtime, wood. Noon is fire. Dusk and early evening is metal and autumn, and then nighttime is winter or water, as is the time of your life. Your youth is governed by spring, and it does seem to be kind of grown up. So youth is like adolescence, it's not infant time. I'm not sure, I haven't really figured out or found a writing that would clarify that. But often in Tao practice, children are separate, clearly separate. And then your adulthood, when most people pursue parenthood, is fire, summer. When you're later adulthood, when you gathered your wisdom and skill, that is autumn. And then old age, when you're withdrawing from public life, when you're trying to simplify, taking more rest, that's winter time. But it's also with each work project or creativity in particular. So springtime is a time of generating and creating in the kind of conceptual stage, because we move into summer where we're actually making the stuff or writing the thing. And then autumn is when we would present it. We would reach out and share it. And then winter, we let go of that project, because you cannot move forward if you're hanging on to what's already been done. There are a couple others too, but I'm mindful of our short time. And just to, I don't remember if I said this in the beginning, but I do need to emphasize it in the series. You will get handouts from me a couple days before, And those handouts are going to have instructions, like boiled down instructions for the practices we'll be focusing on in class. But I will also send you contemporary articles or more academic things and historical stuff as well. I think context is very important, and just to breathe and move, you're shortchanging yourself without that building of context. And then I'm going to continue placing the video on YouTube without, not publicly. So if you have the link, you can view it. If you miss a class, I don't really want to get involved in refunds and prorating and stuff. The series is the series. So I offer you the option of a 20-minute, 15-minute one-to-one with me after you view the video, so we can catch up and I can make sure that everything's okay and you're understanding everything. Okay, so let's do some sounds. What I think we're going to do is very abbreviated. We'll start with the lungs, which is traditionally where we start regardless of the season. And we're just going to do the sound and a little breathing for the organs. And then once we get to the liver, that's when we're going to drop anchor and sit with the emotions and invite the wisdoms and so forth. That way it gives a little context for the liver. So sit well. That means, hopefully, your feet are connected to the earth and you're on your sits bones, not your tailbone. Abdomen is gently engaged. And always true, unless we're making a sound, place your tongue on your upper palate. True of almost any Tao practice. And bring your mind to your belly. Your dantian, your center of gravity. Just inhale into your dantian. Feel it expand. Exhale. Let it relax back. Good. Float your attention up to your lungs. Connect with your lungs. You can place your hands over top of the organ we're focused on. And inhale a white light filling and expanding your lungs. When you exhale, see it as grayness or cloudiness, which supports your lungs releasing anything stale or stagnant. This color inhale and gray exhale is continued throughout the practice time. The color changes, but we're always inhaling these colors, the frequency of which the Taoist practitioners have figured out supports that elemental energy and the organ. And that exhaling of gray. So the movement, and all of these movements are seated and simple. I inhale and float my hands up my center front, and I turn my palms up. Make sure your elbows are out to open your lungs. The sound is And turn palms back down and return to your lap. Stay with your lungs for a breath or so. Let them rest. Gently move your focus from your lungs to your kidneys. You can rub your kidneys to warm them, help connect. Relax the movement and shift to inhaling indigo blue into the kidneys, that whole area. Exhaling grayness. So the elemental energy of the lungs is metal. The elemental energy of the kidneys is water. There are many other attributes to each elemented organ, but we're going to stay with the element today. Good. For the kidneys, raise your feet up onto your toes and grasp your knees, because we're going to push our lumbar out. And so we want to have good structure to do that. Inhale indigo as you push your lumbar out, and exhale gray. The sound is choo, choo. And return to your sitting. Stay with your kidneys. And now let's float our attention over to our liver. So we're doing these in a certain order. It's called the healing cycle or the creative cycle, because each one supports the next. So for the liver, we want to inhale that lovely spring green into the liver and the whole area. Exhaling grayness. And as I said, the element of the liver is wood. So since we're going to stay here for a minute, the other aspects of that element, yes, the season is spring. The time of day is morning. Time of life is youth. The movement of wood element energy is expansion, expanding in all directions. And the activity is beginning. If you practice the I Ching, trigram is thunder, one of the trigrams. So the movement, let your eyes flutter open. The movement is circling your arms up. You lace your fingers in reverse over your head. And then you open your liver side. So I'm leaning left to open my right, making the sound. Shh. Come back to center and bring my arms back. We continue that green inhale. As we do, open yourself up to your anger. sit with your anger for just a few breaths. If you could conjure it and connect or not, anything's okay. Let's give voice to our anger. Inhale, arms circle. Lace and reverse your fingers. Tilt and shh. Coming back. Don't reject your anger. Keep with that colorful inhale and exhale. And sit with, honor your kindness. Inhale. Invite any of your anger that's ready to transform into kindness. Back. Stay appreciating your wood, your liver, your kindness, and your anger. Then allow your attention to move to your heart. Inhale a red color into your heart. We don't want to overheat our heart, so make the color rich, but rather calm. So no fire engine reds, roses, terracottas, things like that, better. And the element of the heart is fire. So let your eyes open. Movement is the same as with the liver. Circle, lace and reverse. This time bend to the right. Opening your heart. Sound is ha. Coming back. Stay with the heart. And float your attention down to your spleen. If you're not sure where that is, it's at the just underneath the bottom rib, center and to the left. You can inhale yellow into that whole area. Exhale grayness. The element of the spleen is earth. The earth is treated differently in most cases. With the directions, it's the center, it's where you are. With the seasons, it just supports us at the change of seasons. There's no time of life, time of day, because you live your whole life on the earth. So we inhale, coming in. So this is, I'm doing this high so you can see it, but basically you curl your fingers in over the spleen. So it happens down here. Inhale, and when you get about halfway, we start making the spleen sound, which is the tiger's growl. So when you return, make sure you open that area to give the spleen more space. Good. The last movement, triple warmer. Basically honoring your own healing capacities, the practice, the Tao, and sending anything that's been dusted up that you don't need to the earth. So we inhale all the way up to above our head. Exhale, sound is he. Do that 3 times. There are no attributes or organs. And grateful for that practice. The aspect of the series that just does not lend itself to this sort of overview in a short amount of time are the more delicate, subtle aspects of the elements. Our life is held by 5 spirits in our bodies. Those spirits, in most cases, lived before we manifested and will continue after. They have generously decided to travel our path with us for this life, to have taken up residence in our body. So the liver spirit is the Hun, and that is a good example of one that has lived before and will continue after we die. The Po in our lungs is just ours for this life. It's called the corporeal spirit because of it being attached to this body. The kidney spirit is the Z, and that is the one who guides us on our path. The translated word is often governing our destiny. And then the Yi in our spleen is our intellect, is our contemplative, let's say, force in our life. And the heart is the Shen, which is most closely could be described as our spirit. And it is also called the emperor of the other spirits. I don't really relate to emperors. Let's say the Girl Scout troop leader of the other spirits. So the last 2, I hope to shift our healing organ practice, dealing with our bodies and our emotions more toward those spirits, just to connect, make space, honor them, because a Western life, they are invisible. And when you make something visible to you, things change. That's all you have to do is pay attention. And the other element that I feel is very delicate is relating to the earth's, our kin on the earth. The plant kin would be the spring, the wood element, resident of the planet. And the mountains are the residents of metal. Water is obvious, the oceans and the swamps. Fire is the volcanoes and the magma. And the soil, the earth element, we can take to the parts we really don't pay attention to unless we're botanists, which is the smalls that live in the soil, that live in the earth. And even I always mispronounce this word, but the mycelium, no, that's not it. The mushrooms and their amazing network is very much of the earth element. So each of those aspects, week by week, we will spend time with. And looking forward to that, actually. It's a good time for the plant kin because they're just kind of waking up and getting bigger, getting noisier too. Any questions? Anything to say? That's good.
I'm excited.
Oh,
This is
good.
my favorite. I love going back to this.
Yeah, me too. And you're in LA, which the seasons are not the same as in New York City anyway.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's quite nice. My windows are open right now.
Oh, a little envious. Yeah. So any other questions or anything otherwise?
I like the way taking care and paying attention to the organs. And I'm so interested in the spirit aspect because you're right, Westerners, we don't talk about it. We don't know about it. Like we don't really, how do you know about it? You have to study. You have to study and practice or you won't know in this Western world really much unless you practice.
It resonates with me much more, I could say colorfully, than having one spirit. No, this collective is really quite beautiful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
thank you very much and have a great something, night, week.
Felt different everywhere. Yeah, that was wonderful. I'm happy to meet everybody too. Nice to see everybody.
See you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next week.
Yes.